That's just smart. Craig joins us. Craig, the Obamacare lawyer. Craig Gottwals, leading consultant on benefits and health care and Obamacare. And, oh, my gosh, he's known nationally. Hello, Craig.
Good morning, Jack and Joe.
So, first of all, old slippery Gruber yesterday. I know you watched it. What'd you think of him?
Oh, man, he is one slippery cat. Well, he fell on the sword. He twisted the sword up, and he absolutely gutted himself yesterday is what he did. I mean, he was coached up, and he took the fall, clearly. He wants to protect the project. Like he said in one of those videotapes, I'd rather have the law than not have the law, so we'll do whatever we need to do to get that done.
But he fell on the sword by saying, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his message was not all that different than Vince's message earlier in the show. You know, I have low self-esteem. I want to feel better about me. No offense, Vince, but it was really what Gruber said yesterday.
Well, it's not much to fall on the sword when you made that many millions of dollars off of your original deal. I'll go ahead and say I'm stupid all day long if I get paid $4 million for it.
It was $5.9 million. That's the latest. I've got that from two different sources that we're looking at $5.9 million.
Wow.
There's four things, guys. I want to hit you with four real quick, Joe, before we go to the other thing on Gruber. The most important things that I think, you might not have picked up on watching that. One, he really didn't have a good defense for the no subsidies in federal exchanges argument. They had that one video of him saying, hey, listen, states, if you don't open your own exchange, you're not going to get subsidies, and this law is not going to work for you.
Which is a question that's about to go before the Supreme Court.
That's right. The Supreme Court will likely decide that in June, and that's a huge issue, and that would gut Obamacare in 34 of our states, which would probably gut it nationwide because you can't have it in 16 states only. So they pressed him on that a little bit, and his answer was basically to say, well, what I meant at that time was that the federal government might not step in and open exchanges, so therefore you would never get exchanges. Which is a horrible answer. It's not accurate. And so even with, the time to prep, with clearly administration people prepping him, they didn't have an answer for that, which was really good news for people that are watching that Supreme Court case. The other thing is there was a Democrat from, I believe it was Massachusetts, who attacked Gruber at one point on the Cadillac tax, saying, hey, listen, this is a problem for my constituents because if I have a person bidding on a job who has less than 50 employees, they're not required to buy health care. But if you have a person bidding on that same job who has more than 50 employees, they are required to buy health care and maybe pay a Cadillac tax on that health care, meaning that they've got to add $13,000 per employee to their bid cost that under 50 employee person wouldn't have to add. How do we fix that, Mr. Gruber?
Well, that's a good question.
And you need not be a professional economist or even a business owner to understand that sort of disincentive to hiring paralyzes hiring.
Yeah, and he had no answer for that. He looked blank-faced. Yeah, he looked like the unfrozen caveman lawyer from Saturday Night Live saying, your ways and your means confuse me. So he had nothing for that, which I thought it was telling to me that you had another Democrat come out of the woodworks to really gut him on that deal.
All right, what else?
Lastly, they go into the $6.7 million covered on the exchange. Remember, Marilyn Tavenner overstated that by roughly $500,000 by counting dental people. We talked about that. But what was interesting there is I've told you guys, roughly half of that number is not Obamacare, it's Medicaid. Okay, so you're saying, well, there's really $3.5 million maybe in Obamacare. Another congressman, I didn't catch where he was from, asked in the hearing yesterday, hey, Ms. Tavenner, how many of the roughly $3.5 to $4 million that actually bought Obamacare, how many of them are really just federal employees we moved from over here to over there? Because remember, a lot of federal people, Congress people, their staffs, et cetera, said we have to take Obamacare now too, kind of as a good faith gesture. She didn't have an answer for that. So, some chunk of this number is actually just federal employees we moved from here to there, which will be interesting to see when that comes out. And lastly, I just wanted to point out, for him to say, I can't answer this because I'm not a politician, is ridiculous. Every piece of healthcare policy, every piece of healthcare economics is wrapped up in the politics of it. Every page of that law has political thought going into how you label the headings on the law, for example. So you've seen the 6 or 7 videos of him that have come out, but there are other things. The other one you guys hear in the media all the time that we haven't seen a Gruber tape on yet, but I'll just tell you what it is you always hear, oh, the law is wonderful because preventive care is now free. You don't pay a copay. It's free. Well, all that means is we've added 1% premium to your premium to cover the fact that they can't ask for a copay when you go in for your preventive care.
Right, exactly. You paid in advance automatically.
Yeah, it's prepaid. You could call it a tax. The same is
real quick, because we're running out of time. You got to keep an eye on your watch in this crazy business. Back to the whether Gruber's a political consultant. He met with the White House 21 times, please.
21 times.
Yeah, let's be serious.
And he's paid $5.9 million. He's the most highly paid consultant on Obamacare other than Obama.
Okay, so let's talk about the other thing, which is, as predicted, when the government gets involved, companies no longer make pleasing customers and offering good services that are priority. They make gaming the government the priority, yes?
Yeah, rent-seeking, purely. I finally put forth an article as comprehensive as I could do in less than 2,000 words that was published yesterday in a nationwide industry magazine that said basically, look, here's how the bailouts work. It's like I mentioned to you before, it's called 3 R's, and they call it that because there are 3 buckets of money: reinsurance, risk adjustment, and risk corridor. 2 of those 3, reinsurance and risk adjustment, are buckets of money that are finite. At least they're supposed to be finite in the law, and they're supposed to balance out eventually. The last one, risk corridors, which you could basically just think of as the Robin Hood tax, where insurers that make money are supposed to share some of their winnings with the insurers that lose money in the exchanges. It's a socialization of our insurance industry. It's called the Risk Corridor Program. The problem in the law is that particular bailout doesn't have a provision in it that says, gee, well, it's supposed to take profits from these and move it to those, but what if none of them have profits? What if ultimately all of the insurers in the exchange lose money? Then what happens?
And do you think that could happen?
Absolutely could happen. Yeah, in fact, the early reports coming in are showing that something like 80% of the insurers are losing money versus 20% making money in the exchanges.
You know, I have a wild guess where that money might come from.
Yeah, HHS said first in May, and then they codified it in that Friday before Thanksgiving release and said, we don't view that as a problem at all, insurers. Please be assuaged to know that if that does happen, we will issue a new fee to the populace, and we will make sure you get made whole. So what that did is it green-lighted insurance companies to say, great, we don't even really need to worry about making profits in Obamacare. We just want headcount. And they want headcount because they know that once you get people enrolled, it's incredibly tough for people to want to disenroll. You know, you like Jack talks about, you pick one carrier, the last thing you want to do is switch carriers every year. So they know that if they can just get them in the door and they can milk these buckets of money for 3 years, they're going to be made whole. And they're doing really interesting things, Joe, like you and I have talked about, and I now have clearance to talk about some of them because some of them are officially filed public complaints now. So the way you quote, legitimately farm the system in Obamacare is you make the premiums for the kind of plans that you want. Like if you're really sick and you want a low deductible, you make that premium just astronomically high, much higher than your competitors even, because you know that's where the sick people are likely to buy policies. If you want to get only the healthy people on your rolls, you take that $12,000 deductible plan that we've talked about, and you make that one 10 to 20% cheaper than your competitors. And there are at least a couple insurers doing this.
And all the while, you know you're going to get bailed out. You know that unlimited pool of money will be available. And you can manage who actually signs up for your policies, even though the point of the law is that you've got to take everybody, but there's ways to manipulate who signs up.
That's exactly right. You build things into your policies to make them more alluring. Like, for example, let's take Jack's case, for example. If at open enrollment this year, is Jack's family going to be looking for an insurance company that offers really great gym membership discounts and incentives if you walk a lot? No, Jack wants a robust cancer network. Right? And so what these insurance companies are doing in this world is they're putting in these really good gym membership types of discounts, and they're really limiting for example, their cancer network.
Because they just want head count. They just want as many people as possible.
Well, and they want healthy, cheap people.
They want head count. But B, if you can just moderately adjust it so that the more healthy people choose you, you're better off. So you're going for A, head count, and you're also going for B, I don't want the cancer guy to pick my plan. I want the Vince Nicholas who's at the gym every day to pick my plan because he ain't going to use the doctor.
Well, and we need to wrap this up because we're out of time, but the long and short of it is the answer to those who would centrally plan economies is, of course, well, all right, we'll write 25,000 more pages of regulations, which the companies will spend all their time, energy, and innovative spirit getting around, and they will get around them.
Yeah, the amount of resources that have been spent on rent-seeking and gaming this system are astounding.
Yeah, rent-seeking, for people not familiar, is just a term economists use for figuring out how to game the government.
Yeah. Spending your time on government regulation as opposed to making your best product.
Craig, the Obamacare lawyer, will have a link to Craig so you can find what he's writing and doing professionally and that sort of thing. But thanks, Craig.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.